What up, Thomas?
What up, Richie?
Yeah, it's been a while, man.
It has been. I don't
Yeah.
know. We need to get back on this horse.
Yeah. Yeah, just with the holidays and everything. Well, not really a holiday, Columbus.
Columbus Day.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we were gonna go to eat at. Have you been to Saffron's?
Saffrons, no, where's that at?
That's in Twin on Main Street. It's an Indian place. They were closed yesterday. We were gonna go there.
Really, on
But
Columbus Day?
they were closed. Yeah.
Wow.
For Columbus Day. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is the first time in my life I'm off on Columbus
Yeah.
Day.
What's the controversy with Columbus?
Well,
Right.
they say that he never discovered America. It's more of
Yeah.
like a native.
Right.
Um,
And there was like a lot of
but he didn't discover America, but what he did was
Mhm.
he brought Europe to America pretty much.
right.
Yeah.
Like he kind of mapped out
He mapped out where it
Europe's
was.
way to there. Obviously, he wasn't the first one there, but I mean, that was like the idea though, was that he was trying to be the first one there to.
Well, it's kind of funny because when you look into like Portuguese history during the conquistador era, they really laugh at Christopher Columbus. Portugals were like really well known for conquistadors, right?
Yeah.
Back then in the late 1400s, I think this was about like 1490 or some sort like that, 1492. I don't know exact, but they used to have a guy named Vasco da Gama who was like a Portuguese explorer, and he's like still today he's well known. And he actually didn't discover India, right? But he discovered the route to get to India.
Oh.
So when he went to India, he came back with spices, because that's what Portugal is known for, is their import. He
Okay.
came with spices, goods, and stuff. Well, Christopher Columbus did the same thing later on.
So Portugal was there first, really. They established a trade
Yeah,
route
they
before.
established first there. They weren't.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not the first ones civilization there.
No,
they
but
were
I
there,
mean,
yeah,
in terms of like
discovery and how to
yeah.
get there.
Yeah.
And he comes back. Christopher Columbus comes back and tells the king. His name was King Paul the Second, and he King Paul. No, not King. Man, was it King John? Might have been King John the Second. I'm getting my Pauls mixed, but anyway. And he comes and tells him that he'll give him spices that he discovered India, and all the conquistadors starts laughing at him because they got there before he did. So yeah,
That's funny. I
So-
didn't hear that.
so Portugal, and then they used to make fun of him because he was born in Italy, but he portrayed himself as Spaniard. So
who did?
Christopher Columbus.
Columbus did?
Yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, he's kind of a phony and a fake. So I think that's
Yeah.
where people are a little,
Yeah.
they're a little worry about like, okay, he didn't really discover America. No, he did not. But
Was he like? Did he do a lot of like violence towards the indigenous people?
Oh, yeah.
yeah. That's what I kind of hear.
But
a lot, too.
that back then was something. I mean, it was something common. I think.
Yeah,
Out of fear,
right,
they
right,
can't
right,
speak the
right,
language. They
right.
can't. They don't know.
Yeah,
Lack of education.
yeah. I don't think it was like specific to Christopher Columbus that kind of thing. went
Oh,
on.
yeah.
But yeah, I know that was like another thing they pushed towards, because making it Columbus, quote unquote, Columbus Day was kind of also the thing that kind of torqued people because they felt like it was like celebrating this man who like did a lot of harm
Yeah.
to the indigenous people. But
Well, a lot of the indigenous people, they would do rituals like cannabis as well. Not cannabis,
cannibalism.
cannibalism.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. And it's like, well, they're just as bad.
Oh,
but
yeah.
like I
And
say,
they were
that's
fighting each other.
They fought each other. They did a
Yeah,
bunch of shit.
They
but
were enslaving tribes of each other.
Yeah.
There's a lot of. Have you seen that movie?
Apocalypto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie's pretty sick.
It's a great. I think there's another one coming out here soon.
Oh, is there?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
is
what
it-
I thought.
Is it going to be
that
Mel
I saw.
Gibson or is
Yeah.
somebody else doing it? Oh,
Yeah,
really?
it has to be Mel Gibson.
It would have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know they're coming out with Passion of the Christ too as well.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that gonna work?
I think it's gonna be direct sequel to like his resurrection part.
Yeah, because I know. I hope they do it like on the Apostles. Oh.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the apostles should be part of it. See, that was like one of the reasons like some of the churches like didn't get on board with Passion of the Christ in some ways because there was a lot of stuff they kind of left out in Christ's story with Passion of the Christ, like the Garden of Gethsemane was like where Jesus went to pray to God, and I don't know if you remember the quote where he's like something about like take this cup from me, so like please lift this burden. He's praying to God, and
Yeah.
where but then like ultimately accepting his part that he had to play for a sacrifice
But
and
do
things
you
like
know the
that.
actual story of the apostles? Like how they
Yeah,
died?
not like all of them, but they
Dude,
all died horrifically.
all horrifically
Yeah,
murdered,
yeah,
crucified, beaten to death. I was
yeah.
like, I think one of them was just he actually survived out of age. Like he became
Oh,
an old
one
man.
did.
Yeah, only out of
Yeah,
11, out of 12, one.
yeah.
The 11 other.
I know, like
That's crazy.
Judas killed himself afterwards.
Yeah,
Like the guy, one that betrayed
isn't that crazy?
Jesus.
Like the
Yeah,
Bible's supposed to be some. To me, it's supposed to be like some spiritual, feeling positive, spiritual, and man, there's a lot of murder and a lot of
yeah. Does that? And I feel.
suicide and
Mm-hmm,
whatnot.
mm-hmm. I think that might. I mean, to me, from like me, my religious background and my religious roots, I lend that to be like a uh, testimony of authenticity of the
Right.
Bible. I think it doesn't like sugarcoat things. It doesn't like, you know, um, it doesn't take things away from what history was. Those violent things that happened are there in the Bible, and
Right.
you know,
And that's how I come back to like the Christopher Columbus era. Like everything was just I think it was violent, and
yeah,
they just
it's a
didn't know.
violent time, man. Before
Violent time.
like 18, like before the 1900s and stuff, it
Yeah.
was like,
Well, people got more educated. They educated
mm,
themselves a little bit more.
mm-hmm.
That's what I think. So, what'd you think of the
Yeah,
drinks? This is called
good.
a
This is
gingerbread.
good. Yeah. Is
99
it like
bananas.
bananas, and is it like apple juice or something?
Arizona sweet tea.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
salute, brother.
Salute. It's good. Thank you.
Yeah. Wow, it does taste like a gingerbread.
Yeah.
I was surprised. I don't know why I was surprised, but
Yeah. Have you had it before?
I had it before, but like
Huh.
right now, all of a sudden, it actually tastes like
Yeah.
gingerbread.
Yeah. Like sprinkle in like maybe a little bit of like cinnamon or something. I don't know. Like
Yeah, no, that's good the
give
way
it like a
like that.
spice.
Yeah,
No, this is really good. Yeah.
but yeah, I feel like back then it was just how it was. But what do you think?
Yeah.
Should they take Christopher Columbus Day off?
I don't know. I mean, to me it's like, well, I could take it or leave it. I'm not a big
It's not like it's
Christopher Columbus.
Thanksgiving,
I
huh?
never. Yeah, I don't like celebrate it in any way. There's no celebration going on for me.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't know who celebrates
Well,
Columbus
back in the
Day.
'90s,
I don't
I
know.
remember it used to be big. We didn't go to school. We didn't do
Oh,
anything.
really? Was it a thing where they like you
Yeah,
got school off and everything?
we had school off. All government jobs were shut
I don't know.
off,
I feel
and
like government. I wonder if like that's
but we
still.
were taught since kids. Oh, Christopher Columbus discovered America. That's why.
Yeah.
What, dude? So much
Textbooks and everything like
information.
that. Like, isn't that crazy? How
Oh yeah.
it wasn't that long ago. That's how quickly history
But
can
that's what I'm
change.
saying. That's what I'm saying. That's the great thing about history. Everyone can know about history. Like if I need to know something, I can just Google it, right? It's not
Yeah.
that you can just Google it. Now you have to prove it. And
Yeah.
that's the great thing to me about history is that everyone knows everything, but they don't know how to prove it. And somebody said, you know what, Christopher Columbus didn't actually do this shit. He didn't actually discover America. And then it got bigger and bigger, and here we are.
Yeah. I know, don't you? It's kind of weird how we look at history in some ways, I think, just because what do you say? How can you prove a lot of stuff other than it's like, okay, well, there was a written record of it. Well,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things that people want to like, even though there's written records of, they want to say didn't really happen.
See, that's
Then the other things they say, yes, this really did happen. And
see, and that's what I'm just said. Like that's where you prove it. Like how can you
yeah,
prove it?
yeah,
How is
yeah,
this possible?
yeah.
How was Christopher Columbus able to go from Spain all the way to the United States? And how
Yeah.
was
I know it's kind of like what they say, like especially in war, where the winners kind of write that history.
yeah.
Yeah,
But history's great. Like a lot of people think, history's back then 5,000 years, 2,000 years ago. I'm like, no, history can be religious. It can be sports. I mean, sports
yeah,
history is great. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I just did
There's no arguments over sports history.
no, I
Too.
just did an article on James Braddock. And it was
Oh
absolutely
yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
He fought
I
the
love
Great
that movie.
Depression. The Cinderella Man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that's
movie
him.
was actually really. That's like one of my favorite besides Rocky, like for boxing movies.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did you ever watch
it's definitely
Ali? I never saw that
with
movie.
Will Smith.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed.
Were you? It
Yeah.
wasn't that good, huh?
No, I did not
That's
think it
too
was that
bad.
great because they kind of like rushed through the movie because Ali was more of a like an activist,
Yeah, any interviews I see is very like he's very politically charged.
They didn't
and,
show
like,
they didn't show the drama of him not going to war because he's like
oh,
he quoted this is what he I not quote he goes, they didn't do anything to me. You know, why am
yeah,
I going to war? Why am I going to go kill for somebody that I don't even know and they don't know me? Which he had a point there if he didn't feel like wanting to go.
yeah, you know,
And and in the
I
middle of
like
his
it.
prime he went to prison. You know,
Yeah,
not a lot of people will do that.
no, yeah, I like the age old like thing of like where there was a Black Sabbath song called what's that one? It was like generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. It's
I have
War Pigs.
War
War Pigs,
Pigs. I
yeah.
haven't heard that one.
And in the song, it kind of talks about how politicians send kids to war, and
Yeah,
there's a lot of songs like that out there. You know, where you have like old like men behind the desk, you know, kind of calling all the shots and sending these 18-year-old kids off to die.
I bet
There's
like
a
right
lot of
now in
controversy
Ukraine,
there.
there's 15-year-olds.
Probably,
I guarantee it.
yeah.
15. Man,
I think in World War One and Two, they lied a lot of times about their age just to so they could go fight. Because there's a lot of politically or like patriot. There's a lot of patrioticness involved with
oh,
those
for
two
sure.
wars,
It's not.
and wanting to go and serve.
I feel like now is a whole different ball game than how it was World War One, World War Two. They were all patriotic. They're like, hell yeah, let's do it. Here it's
Mm.
like, nah, they're not more. Oh, I could be wrong too. I don't know.
No, there's a lot of patriotism still, I'd say, but I think that there's a lot like the government doesn't have as much like sway on like this is the bad guy and we got to go fight the bad guy. This is what the bad guy's doing and this is a really bad thing they're doing. Not that,
Mhm.
that wasn't true back then with Germany and Hitler and all of and that, but I feel like the government can kind of control a little
They've
bit
always been
more.
like that.
They've always been
They've
able to.
always
Yeah.
tried
I
to
feel like
control
now I
everything.
think there is like a bit of a
Even when they tried to abolish slavery,
uh-huh.
Abraham Lincoln, after the assassination, President Andrew Johnson decided to go back,
Oh yeah, he tried to reverse that.
reverse the act, and give the white people their land back.
Yeah. And
And
like
I'm like,
what reenact slavery and
and he
everything?
tried to
Or
reenact slavery, but after the Confederate War, Civil War, what
uh-huh.
happened? I think it was nearly
It's
impossible.
too late
It was
after
a little too
that.
late, but he
Yeah.
tried. Dude, what an asshole! Like you try
Yeah.
to be like, you know what? You just fought a war, especially black soldiers.
Yeah.
You know that fought for the
Yeah.
war, and then you're like, nah, you know what? You ain't getting shit. And a lot of
Yeah,
people,
dude.
especially black people, they didn't get their fair share either.
Oh,
It took
I'm
it took
sure like
20 to 30
afterwards.
years
Yeah, even
before they
afterwards
can.
like quote unquote freedom wasn't exactly, all it was cracked up
Yeah,
to be
they
for black people, I'm sure,
exactly.
yeah.
They started doing crop sharing. They said, well, if you work in this land, you'll get this land, and they would work on it and be like, oh well, I'm not giving it to you, and then they would do a bunch of weird ass shit like that.
Yeah.
It was bad for them back then. But Abraham Lincoln, he had the right idea, and
Mhm.
when someone tries to stop it, I mean, I think that's what makes Abraham Lincoln so great.
Yeah.
It took 16
Somebody-
presidents before him
yeah,
to.
Yeah, it was a good turning point.
It was a good turning point.
That had to happen for us to get to where are today. And there's been a lot of progress.
And people
Since
talk about, we're just talking about Columbus Day, right? I know there's Martin
Yeah.
Luther King Day, but
Yeah,
I feel like there's someone more influential than Martin Luther King, and that was Frederick Douglass.
oh,
Frederick Douglass,
Boy.
he was born into slavery, never met his mother, lived with his grandma until he was 9, and after 9 years old, he was traded. Well, not traded. He was sold to a plantation, where at the time the owner of the plantation's wife wasn't aware that it was illegal to teach black people how to read. Well, he taught him to read at 9 years old, and that's how he got out of slavery, by learning how to read. I mean, this is one of the most historical, iconic figures, I believe, in U.S. history. He ended up marrying a white woman in the late 1800s, and pretty much said, "What are you
really?
going to do about it?" That's how
Yeah.
smart this human was.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was just an extraordinary human being, and
I think there's probably a study out there to suggest that.
yeah,
Academically, that black people are
Well, they lacked
Yeah.
because they
Are
didn't
smart.
teach him.
A
Yeah.
lot
Oh, they're
smarter.
yeah, for
A
sure.
lot smarter actually than I think when it comes to the demographic. I think what I was reading was there's like when it came to like academic studies, more black people did better than white people.
During that era.
Yeah. Well, I think
Mm,
in general too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if in general. I think now it depends where you go to school.
I'd have to look at what it said. I could have sworn they were saying something about it,
I know.
but maybe it was a weird study. I don't know if it was like one specific study or if it was kind of
I know during World
Yeah.
War One they had the draft, right? And they
Yeah.
targeted a lot of Native Americans and African Americans. And
and for World War One.
yeah, for the draft. So you got to do an IQ test, and a lot of the African Americans from the southern colonies, the southern part of the United States, scored a higher IQ than the white people up north.
Shoot. Exactly.
Yeah, but
There you go.
they of course they're not going to disclose that,
Yeah.
They're going to keep it hush hush. But then that's what I'm talking about. That's why I love history, because that's what we have to find out, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what we have to investigate.
No, it's a good thing
as
to
historians.
make a point of.
Yeah, but yeah, Frederick. If there's a holiday, that's got to be Frederick Hud. And he
that's
worked with
crazy.
Abraham Lincoln to free
Did he?
to free slaves. Yeah, he
okay.
got into politics. And what's crazy is he ran away at 16 years old from the plantation. He ran away. Obviously, he was educated, so people thought that he wasn't a slave. He was well educated. Got into politics.
So if you were a slave, it was illegal to learn how to read, or if you were
just
as a black person, in
black
general,
people
you
in
cannot
general.
it is legal to
Yeah.
teach. So like, what would they do then once they realize he can read? How did he?
Well, once they found out he can read, it wasn't that he can read. It's that he got into politics, and then he started like his own union. And then it got bigger and bigger, and then he got Abraham Lincoln. Him and Abraham Lincoln were really close.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure there was already movement well before Abraham Lincoln.
He has a lot to do with the 13th Amendment. The abolishment of slaves, and a lot of people don't know that it was Frederick Douglass who got them there. To go to Civil War and free the slaves. Okay. He actually, after it was like 20 years passed, I think it might have been, I don't know exactly what year, but the owner that had him tried to reclaim him after 20 years, and this is when he's a big politician already. This is like, it was unheard of that black people wrote books, and he already had 2 best sellers.
Crazy.
Yeah, and he goes, well, I still own you, so he had to give him $100 after all this time, 20 years, just to get his papers free or some. I mean, I would have to get deep into it.
That's hilarious.
But
That's ridiculous.
So if anyone wants to celebrate, instead of Martin Luther King, I think it should be Frederick Douglass.
Yeah.
Frederick Douglass Day.
They should have a Frederick Douglass Day for sure.
So I think that has a lot.
Cheers to that.
Oh, salute to Frederick Douglass for sure. And it makes me kind of upset that I learned that now instead of when I was in school. Why aren't you teaching this to these kids in school?
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. Yeah,
I think the school
Martin
system
Luther
is
King for like civil rights, I guess, was.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying Martin
Frederick Douglass had his day like for the slavery thing, but it's interesting that does even Abraham Lincoln get more credit for abolishing slavery than Frederick Douglass?
Yeah, because he was the president.
I never heard of Frederick Douglass. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, Abraham Lincoln was the president, but he was the only president that was willing to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But
I wonder if like that was like the big reason why because Frederick Douglass was a good friend of his, and like helped his opinion be that.
Yeah, you'd have to.
We need to do right by this.
We might have to do an episode on Frederick Douglass one of these days and get deep into it.
I think that would be cool. I'd like to learn more about it.
Yeah, because if we really get deep into it, man, we can come out with all these facts. And I learned about Frederick Douglass when I went to school. My history teacher goes, "Hey, Frederick Douglass?" I'm like, "I have no idea who you're talking about." And he had a book right there. I went and bought the book and Barnes and Nobles, read it, and I'm like, "Wow." I'm like, okay, yeah, I know who Frederick Douglass is now. So it's a shame that these kids don't know who. I tell my kid who Frederick Douglass is because I feel like he should be up there with when it comes to one of Americans' icons.
Yeah, especially for like the history. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The United States.
Yeah, it sounds like his story definitely should be told a little bit more.
And then to marry a white girl back in the day.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was like unheard of, right?
How'd you
But
get away with that?
that's how smart he was.
Yeah.
You can't do nothing to Frederick Douglass. He was a bad mamma
Yeah.
jamma.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool that he was able to do all that. But yeah, I mean, even in the World War One, when they would draft, they would say it was a draft, but they would send a lot of African Americans and
Oh
they
yeah,
would send a
I'm
lot
sure.
of natives, which is, I think, very unfair.
And I'm sure they put them in like the crappy positions of like front line kind of things.
Well,
And
if you're a black person, you weren't allowed to own to have a weapon. You just
oh,
have.
what the heck?
Yeah, I know, right? Like, what was the point of going then?
It's like that was like not even was that wasn't
And
even
that
the
was
case in
only-
the Civil War too.
Yeah, but that was
right?
only-
like they had weapons in the Civil War, right?
No,
not at
No.
all.
no, they weren't allowed to have.
There was like a movie I watched that.
They'd have
portrayed it.
weapons. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
portrayed
weren't
it.
allowed to have weapons. And
Yeah.
I shouldn't say all of them. I'm sure there was some because of the. So the reason they didn't want the black people to have weapons was because the Civil War just ended like 30 years ago, right? 30, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So after it was more of the southern Confederate states that they were worried that the black people were going to attack again. So they wouldn't allow the southerner states that went to war have a weapon. So I shouldn't say they all that couldn't have it, but like northern United States, that wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's the way I heard it portrayed. It was like in the
And that's because
the-
a lot of the southern states, they had a lot of cropping and farming that they needed black people to work. But up northern America, that's when they started doing manufactories. They really didn't need it as much, so it wasn't as big of a deal.
yeah.
So when they tried to bring that to
different industry,
yeah, they
there.
tried to bring that to the South, and they're like, hell no, and it just became a flat out war.
Mm.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
yeah, it's a crazy time. That's why it's so interesting, man.
Yeah.
We weren't even a thought when all this happened.
I know.
I wish I would have just been able to just glance at it just to see how it was back then. There's so much good stuff to learn. And I feel like a lot of kids these days don't know anything about history because it's not even their fault. It's the school system that fails them.
Yeah.
I feel like the school system failed me.
In a lot of ways, I think it fails. It's failed a lot of people for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever go to school and have to write like a report on how to use a checkbook?
No.
Remember that?
Yeah. Well, I never did.
Oh, you never did, huh?
That's I guess where
Yeah, I'm like,
did you have to?
yeah, like
Oh.
how to use it. I got graded on how to use a checkbook. I'm like,
Oh.
okay. And back then, that's all they did use was a checkbook.
Yeah. Well, that's like
And
I
now
feel like
that's-
actually like for back then, I guess more or less saying that might have been a better skill to learn actually.
To learn how
your
to balance
your
a checkbook?
And people say that now too. A lot of times, it's like, oh, we don't learn a lot of those like adult life skills in school.
But I don't feel like we need it,
checkbook
though.
Well, not now. I would
Yeah.
say. But yeah.
And then I remember the teacher would be like, it's not like you're going to have a calculator in your pocket all the time.
Mm.
They would always say that. I
I
remember
got a
that.
calculator. I've got a freaking
Yeah, I got everything. I got
yeah,
the same thing they took
got a damn
1969 to the
computer.
moon. I got the same shit right here in my hand.
Yeah,
The same technology.
it's pretty crazy.
But yeah, the school system is just.
Yeah, the school system's pretty out of whack. It's
Yeah.
been that way for a long time. I don't know if it's getting better or if it's getting worse or what.
I feel like it's getting better because now, I mean, you can go to YouTube. As a teacher, you can show let's say
Yeah.
I'm a history
True.
teacher and I want to show these kids Frederick Douglass. I can go on YouTube, turn the TV on. They're like, oh wow, okay.
It's true.
I can show them anytime from World War I, World War II. When I was in school, we didn't have any of that. We had a little slideshow that's about
YouTube's
it.
a crazy tool. It is like kind of educating
Oh yeah,
America now, the world. Like YouTube, you can just about learn anything you want on YouTube.
oh yeah, absolutely. You can do anything, learn anything, find out, even learn a new language. I mean,
Yeah.
I know a lot of people try to learn a new language through YouTube. Information, podcasts. I mean, it's endless, I believe.
It is. It's an amazing thing. I'm
Do you-
blessed to live today. I feel like in a lot of ways. Other
Yeah.
ways, maybe not so much. And but I think in most ways, today now is the best time to be alive.
I feel like you say that because you know what YouTube is. But let's say you lived in the early 1900s, nobody knows what YouTube is. They wouldn't be like, oh, if I had YouTube, it would be the.
Yeah.
You think, or
Maybe.
What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
Well, the thing is like I think when you look through that type of lens I was born in, the 50s or the 40s or something, you'll always say probably that this was the best time
Yeah.
when I was young, was the best time to be alive, and we didn't have all this fandangled technology. We had to just, figure it out for ourselves.
You can't have a calculator in your pocket.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, there's a lot of things to say, but I was like, man, I feel like that it's, in terms of convenience and safety and a lot of other things, now is the best time. Medical technology,
Yeah.
it's,
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
When it comes to technology, we live in the best era
yeah,
for technology,
right.
no matter where you're from.
Mm-hmm.
But
I mean, and again, there's a catch-22 there. I mean, it's a double-edged sword with technology, obviously. I do think that there's a disconnect with a lot of people now with technology. Everybody's just on their phone, and, you don't get a lot of social interaction.
yeah, it's not the same. I remember as a kid, we would all have big old dinner at grandma's house. Everybody would be there talking, laughing, fighting, arguing, hugging, eating. I mean, it was a big show, but nobody was on their phone,
Right.
Because they didn't have a phone.
Right.
It was the ringer went on, and they would be like, "Oh, we're eating."
Mm-hmm.
I remember my
look
grandma.
around the room,
My grandma would be like, "You know what time it is?" And then hang up the phone.
I don't know, like a telemarketer.
Yeah, it's like a telemarketer.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, she didn't know either. She's like, I don't
Right.
care. I don't pick up the phone past 8.
That's fun.
But yeah, we just live in a different time right now.
That was an emergency, Grandma.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, and
I feel it's hard to be a kid now.
Yeah.
I can see it with my oldest. I feel like it's a lot more peer pressure.
Yeah, I can see it.
Because right now, kids are, kids do dumb shit. They're kids. What are you gonna do, right? And the bad part about it is they get tainted by getting recorded in class, or you're playing basketball, you trip and you eat shit, right? Someone records it. That's devastating
That's
for
forever
a
now.
teenager. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Back then, if I fell down the stairs, everybody would laugh, but then nobody would remember after a week.
Yeah. I think there was something recorded from when I was a kid that I was actually a little bit upset about. I got recorded because I was like making fun of like skateboarding or something like that when I was 17 or something like that. And skateboarding's awesome, so I just want to get that out right now.
Yeah,
skateboarding.
I wish I was a good skater, but
I definitely had this. There was like this video from just after high school where I think I was like just mocking this band that was at a battle of the bands, and that was recorded, and I got kind of a lot of shit for that. A lot, especially from that band, because they saw that.
Yeah.
And, it wasn't good. So, I felt bad about it.
You're like, oh shit, is this on camera?
Yeah.
Well, they get a big old camcorder or what? Was this
No, it was actually, it's funny. I think because another friend of my band was recording for a school project, and he recorded me.
Oh, I see.
And every band in the because it was a battle of the bands with the school, so other bands at the school, they all got the videotape.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you think that's why suicide rates for children are higher than ever because of stuff like that? Because of the technology they can take to school? And I mean, like I said earlier, you fall down the stairs, okay, it's not a big deal. But for a teenager, that's like, oh God, that's like their life.
Could be, yeah. It just depends, I guess, on how they take
and
it.
And the teasing and the bullying,
some kids I think can handle it a little bit better, and some kids can't. And some kids, if they were already bullied before this, too, and then this just like is on top of everything else. I was recorded doing something humiliating, and now everybody at school the next day is just teasing you for it, and
I wonder how
doing things like just like that bullies do.
Yeah.
I can definitely see.
How do you
those
stop
kids
it,
in
though?
Columbine? That I think that.
Oh yeah.
I think those Columbine kids were bullied pretty hard, and that's kind of what drove a bunch of them, or the two of them, to
do something like that.
They did, yeah.
Oh shit. I mean, no excuse for what they did. I mean, it's totally wrong. But I think bullying is just I feel like the bullying we had as kids. When I was in high school, it was like when you're a freshman, you got thrown in a garbage can and rolled down this. I don't know. Did that ever happen to you?
No.
Oh,
no.
But after that, it was like, all right, you're cool.
Thankfully, yeah.
You know what I mean? But it was nothing like they didn't record it or anything and put on Facebook and your family, your friends, everyone's like, oh, you got thrown in a garbage can. or even on like if you get in a fight back then and you lost a fight, okay, everyone forgot about it in a week. But
Pretty
now
much, yeah.
someone records it, it's there, and you're like, remember when I kicked your ass? And it's like,
It's like, oh, you don't remember? Here's the
oh,
video.
here's the video. So I feel really bad for kids these days. That I think they go through a lot worse than what I went through in my era.
Mm.
And again, that I think that's where you get the attitude, the rebellions, the I know it all kind of deal.
Yeah. Because I feel like that, and I feel like though that was always there too. I do remember, as a kid, like wanting to, you know, I felt like I wasn't like that rebellious as a child, but there was times where I definitely did, in ways, especially like as I got older.
Well,
But
I don't blame the children. I blame the parents. The parents now, there's a lot
yeah.
of teachers that trying to teach. A kid gets in trouble for being on his phone, go to the principal's office, goes to the principal's office. They call the parents. The parents comes and yells at the teacher. I'm like, that's how fucked up society's been now.
Mm.
Like, I think teachers are so underpaid. So, I feel like it's more babysitting than anything else.
Yeah, I feel, man, being a teacher's hard too, especially for how low a pay that they do get. That's a lot. I wouldn't want to babysit 20 plus people.
I think they make about 55 to 60 a year. Maybe.
60,
I could be wrong.
000?
Yeah.
That's not enough.
Yeah.
That's
to babysit, I don't think so either.
Yeah, exactly. And they're bringing up, the future of the country and having to deal with all that, just all that teenage angst, that you get, and the hormones flying around, especially in the high school teachers and junior high school teachers. Having to deal with like some kid. Man, I remember in my class some freaking kids that I was like, man, this is definitely the reason I don't want to be a teacher, is having to deal with this freaking kid right here.
I feel like I've always wondered if I would be a good teacher or not. But I feel like I would be more, because I understand, like when you're in middle school, your hormones you're going through puberty, you got your hormones. It's a confusing time. You got to understand that too. A lot of people don't understand that kids get rebellion and lash out, but they're actually confused of their own, of themselves. Like, okay, what's happening to me? I'm starting from a child to a teen. They're moving at a different level, a different step.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, because it's something they've never been before.
Never been before. So of course their attitude's going to change, and but if you feel like if you're a good teacher, you would be more understandable. You can be more relatable to these kids. You can teach them in a good way. I feel like instead of just throwing them a handbook and a textbook and be like, here you go, that's just such a wrong way to teach them. You're not learning anything, right? So if you're not learning anything, you're getting bored. And if you're getting bored, you're going to just lash out. You're going to lose your mind.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens a lot. But if you're a good teacher and you have a class and you're interactive, you can play trivia games, like kind of trick them into learning.
Yeah.
If it was me, I'm doing history. I'd be like, oh, okay, let's play Family Feud. Oh, okay, yeah, we don't have to do homework. No. And then I'll start doing Family Feud history. And after doing Family Feud history, they're learning as they're playing. And they remember stuff like that because it's not a lot of pressure from just reading off a textbook. That's just the way I see it, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree in a lot of what you said. I think that, and I think that too, the way that we get taught too is sometimes one of the parts that like create, sometimes a lot of confusion for kids, and I think too, we need to maybe reform a little bit how we teach in America. There's Neil deGrasse Tyson, I don't speak well of him all the time, but he does have some good things that he says. When you're a child, like a young child, you kind of are a scientist as a child. You're experiencing the world for the first time, and how things are. You're splashing through the water. What's going to happen if I do this? If I pick up this like mud and squish it in my hand, what that feeling is like. We've never felt that before. I'm testing things out, and that's what science is just testing things out all the time. And I think that there's a few videos I've seen of teachers, you know, who are really, really good, and they do a lot
Oh,
of like in class demonstrations of things like physics and how math would work and all that. And it really, I think those like visual demonstrations teach a lot.
yeah,
And those teachers, I think, you know, that needs to be kind of the bar to set, or the bar to
right.
follow too,
Yeah,
or the bar to reach, or whatever, you know, is
I know
have a lot of
somebody. I
visual
know somebody like
demonstration.
that.
Yeah.
He's a great teacher. Like, I probably won't. I don't want to say his name
No, yeah,
out
don't.
because, yeah, I don't know if he would want
It'll
me
be
to.
out
But
like,
he is such a great teacher.
yeah.
Like, he doesn't give you paperwork or nothing. He doesn't even give you assigned homework. He just says get it done when you can. Like, it can be late, it can be early, it can be whenever.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And he says the reason he does that because he doesn't want to put the pressure. There's no reason to put pressure on anyone. You're not going to learn with pressure. And we'll sit there and we'll have discussions, and he lets you talk about the topic. And just by letting you talk, he can tell if you know what you're learning or not. And if you're not learning anything, then he talks to you and be like, okay, yeah, this happened.
Explain
this happened.
it. Yeah, he'll
Explains
explain
it.
it. Yeah.
And he's not like, nope, you're wrong. Nope. He always sits there and like he values your opinion. And then it gets everybody interested because they say, well, if this guy's talking about it, I can talk about it, you know, and I'll be into the conversation.
That's
It's
awesome.
just a
That's
great,
a great
teacher.
Yeah.
I've never in my life experienced anything like that. And it sucks that it was like, I'm old now.
Yeah,
I
I wish
couldn't do that.
teachers would have like an open floor kind of thing like that a little
Oh,
bit
that's
more.
the way to do it.
Yeah,
That's the way to do it.
You just can ask questions, and we can learn that way rather than.
That's the way I would do it.
Yeah.
I would have, you know, I would do activities, get
Really
kids
limit your
involved.
lecture to like something very
Yeah.
like very short, and then the rest of the class time is okay. Let's talk about it. Let's ask some questions.
Well,
Let's have some questions.
we have an exam coming up, and he gave us all the answers, and he goes, "It's your job now to know what's going on." You know what I mean? And it's like, wow, like there's no stress. Like, oh God, I hate being here. I don't want to be here. I don't. And what's crazy? Here's the crazy part.
Because like when you go to like a sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying. Here's the crazy part: is class is over at 2:15. Oh, not 2:15, 2:00, right? He was just talking about history still, and we're talking about topics and whatnot. And it was like 2:20. Nobody left the room.
Oh,
Absolutely
really?
nobody
Oh,
left the
that's
room.
awesome.
And he goes, guys, you guys can leave. What are you guys doing here? And nobody left the room.
Wow,
that's how great this teacher is.
That's awesome. Nobody wanted to leave.
Nobody wanted to leave.
Yeah.
So
how do you? I mean, that guy needs to teach teachers, man.
Yeah. And sometimes I wonder if someone taught him like that.
Maybe.
Like what? Because I've never seen anyone teach the way he does.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's awesome. Oh, what was I gonna say? I can't remember now. Oh well, that's all right.
Sorry, dude. I just got all excited about that.
No, but anyways, I wish more teachers would take that type of route when it came to teaching kids. It's really refreshing for a kid, number one, rather than, you know, you're just listening and listening and listening to a lecture, and then, you know, you have to pass this test. So after you just listen to this boring ass stuff, you know, for the last however long.
Yeah.
It's hard to retain information that way.
It is. It's very hard.
Yeah.
And kids don't learn from just throwing them a pamphlet and be like, here, read it and tell me.
Yeah.
And then I feel like a lot of teachers may have some kind of like authority kind of position that they feel like I'm teaching you, so you better listen to me. Like the child has no opinion. I feel like that's wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone should have an opinion, and then you can go from there and be like, well, I agree or I don't agree. You know, and this is what I think, and what do you think? And I always try to put them in the conversation instead of being like, nope, that's wrong. It's an F.
Yeah. Yeah. Or getting frustrated with the kid because you explained it a couple times to them and they still don't get it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When someone has to explain, and this is, I don't want to just throw this out there, but when someone has to explain several times to a person, the person doesn't get it, maybe you should realize maybe you're explaining it not the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Try to readjust how you're explaining it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can tell a person 5 times and be like, I don't get it. Like when my kid does homework and I try to tell her something and she goes, I don't get it. Then I'll try to do it in a different way. I said, okay. And I'll try to do it in a different way until she'd be like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because now she knows what not to do.
Yeah.
And then she learns from that certain way.
Yeah. I'll never forget a math teacher I had that got, like, you could just see the frustration on him. Like, he, like, threw his pen down, folded his arms, and it's like, you know, kind of gives you, like, this, like, I give up look. Yeah. You know, it's just like, I'll never forget that. It was like,
What were you guys
it was
doing?
like, it was mathematics. It was math.
No, but
Something.
what were you guys doing to
I can't
frustrate him?
remember. I can't remember what it was. It's just he was trying to explain this concept and the formula or something like that, and like how you get to this answer through this,
Hmm.
sequence of reasoning, and it just wasn't clicking with me. He went through it like 3 or 4 times with me
Yeah.
after the class, and I just was like, every time I was just like, I couldn't. It wasn't clicking with me, and I don't remember what I eventually had to do to figure it out, but or if I ever figured it out. But it was definitely like the sign of like where I like, man, that is just not the way I want to be taught, and
Right.
not the way I want to like try to learn something. It was
Yeah. When I went to school, and I till this day I think it's weird. When I went to elementary, there was a elementary school in Artesia, California. That was called Elliott Elementary, and we're in Artesia. Everybody was Portuguese, and I might have said this already. I'm not sure. Dude, I learned everything in Portuguese from kindergarten into like third grade. Everything was like we speak English, but everything was like Portuguese. We even like the morning song we did was in Portuguese.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, all the teacher's last name was the same as mine.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and everything.
Wait, so did you learn Portuguese after English or English then
Probably
Portuguese?
the same. Like when I was a kid, pretty much we'd stay at my grandparents, and they were Portuguese, so they talked to us in Portuguese, probably from watching cartoons and stuff. English, it just came
Do you feel
natural.
like at home there was more Portuguese going on than English?
During that time, yeah,
Yeah.
a lot more. Everything was because we would stay at my grandma's house, and she would. There was no such thing as daycare for my family.
Yeah.
They're like, nope, you're going to grandma's, and
that's
yeah,
awesome,
she
though.
would take. Yeah, I was very grateful.
Thank goodness.
And so yeah, since we were born, she would speak to us in Portuguese, and it was just natural for us to talk Portuguese, and we just learned
Such
English
a
and Spanish.
blessing, I feel
Yeah.
like, to grow up
I
like
kind of
that.
feel like it fades away though.
I've heard that, especially if you don't keep like if you're not speaking it on a regular basis. I've heard like people who speak Spanish as a first language,
Yeah.
but they go so long without. Oh, I haven't had to speak it, for so long.
Right.
They feel like you start thinking less in Spanish and thinking more in English, because I feel like that's what they say when you are learning a new language. You want to start thinking in that language
Right.
as much as you can.
Yeah. And it's very, especially when you have Spanish mixed with English and Portuguese. When you go to school, it's very confusing.
Mm-hmm.
But I wasn't confused because everything was in Portuguese. Even we had to write Monday through Sunday in Portuguese.
Mm-hmm.
So when I came to Idaho, they put me in like some resource class.
Where were you at first?
In Artesia, California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was in Southern California, and I came to Idaho at 9 years old. And I remember they put me in a resource class because I couldn't really read in English.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and now that when I got older, I thought that was freaking weird. Like, why the hell were we doing it in Portuguese?
Yeah,
it's weird. But since then, I felt like I've always been a bad student because I'm like, they just said, "Yep, go to resource, learn whatever."
Okay.
I was never part of the group because we would watch activities or movies, and I couldn't do it because I had to go to resource.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. And then in high school and middle school, they would put me in ASL, American Second Language. And I'm like, I can speak English just fine. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
I wasn't a great student, but I think they just wanted to I don't want to deal with this kid. Go to ASL.
Yeah. Yeah, they probably do that with quite a few children.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wonder how many times they do that to kids. They say, nah, he's not a very good student. And they just throw him into resource and stuff like that. I'm like, well, you got to teach a kid.
Yeah.
You change a kid's life at a young age. I guarantee you he'll become somebody.
Yeah.
He'll definitely become somebody.
There's definitely those teachers out there that I think that really care and really want to take that time to sit down and teach and really want them to get it, and they don't treat it like just a job kind of thing.
Yeah, and I feel that's the problem. They treat it just like a job. I felt, and I'm 100% sure about this. I feel like if I had, like the teacher I have now, if I had him in elementary or middle school, my life would have been a whole lot different.
Yeah.
I really do. I really do believe that.
Yeah. No, I agree. There's a couple teachers I just spent. It's like, man, could that just have been my teacher the entire time?
Yeah, the whole time.
Because I felt like it would have turned out a lot better.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
And
it was and I feel like my upbringing is kind of weird too, because there was I was homeschooled for part of my junior high, came back for 1 year junior high, went back to homeschool, came back for a year high school, and then I dropped out and got my GED. And yeah, homeschooling was not, I mean, was not, was not that great.
Did you want to go to homeschool? Is that why?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Like I had the option, but, and my parents were all right with it, but my parents didn't have the time to be involved, in it as much as, if you're homeschooled, I feel like there needs to be a level more, like probably you need to have one parent that's a stay-at-home parent.
Yeah,
to do homeschooling. I feel like
to
make sure that it's like really adhered to, and that the child is learning and all this, and nothing to say bad about my parents or whatever, but they gave me the option. I took the option to be homeschooled, and I think I just slacked off, honestly. I put a lot of blame on myself for it, more or less.
Well,
but I think that I took advantage of the fact my parents were working jobs, at the same time as me trying to like do school at home.
And another thing, they probably didn't know. If they would have known that wouldn't be the best option, I'm sure they wouldn't have done it.
Yeah. I think they just wanted me to have that choice. They wanted to give me the choice, and they did, and I chose poorly.
You're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. My wife, who's gonna be an elementary teacher, we always talk about stuff like this, and she's doing early elementary, like 1st to 3rd grade, 4th grade. She doesn't want to get go more further than that, but I think she's gonna do great, I think. So she's really great with kids, and that's where I feel.
Who you said?
My wife.
Your wife wants to do that. Okay.
Yeah, she's gonna do that here.
Okay.
And
good for her.
Yeah, and I feel that's where you should start. Not 3rd, 4th grade. But I'm saying like start them young. Don't show them the world at a young age. Show them the possibilities. Show them that what they can do. Don't show them that the bad things in life. Like, no, you got the F. Instead of saying you got an F, why don't you say, look, let's work on these that you didn't get right. And
as a teacher, I would just not accept it as much as possible. Yeah. I mean, unless there was just a real, like, just the kid is so hell bent on getting that bad grade, you have no choice but to, do that. You've done everything you can to try to,
and sometimes
tutor the child. And go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's all I was gonna say. It's like they did everything they could, and still the child chose kind of. It's up to you. It is up to you, kind of. In school, where how much effort do you want to put forth? Yeah. When I did put forth effort, I did a lot better, obviously. Than when I slacked a lot. When I went back to high school after homeschool, that first year freaking sucked. I had a hard time because I was kind of used to just slacking off, man. I got to that point during homeschool, like I was saying, that I didn't have a lot of like discipline to like stay the course and make sure I was studying and make sure I was doing the work. Then when I went back to high school, it was like, man, I am having a hard time.
You're already behind.
Yeah, pretty much. And then when the second half of the year, I did really well, but it was like the damage was done from that first half of the year.
Yeah.
And if I had put as much effort in that second half as I did or if I put as much effort in the first half as I did the second half, I would have been fine.
Right.
But it wasn't the case. And I probably would have ended up having to redo like 10th grade or 11th grade or whatever. So I ended up just dropping out and getting my GED.
Yeah. No, that's pretty much what happened to me. At 16, I just had to drop out. I was so left behind because I just didn't pay attention, didn't care. I don't know what it was. I was just stupid back then. When you're 16, 17, you don't think about, man, I'm going to be 40. What am I going to do? It's like, I'm going to be 17 forever. Nothing's going to stop me.
It does feel like that. You feel like just time is going so slow when you're a kid that, man, I have so much time to just, dink around, but you really just don't. Oh my gosh. Dude, the weeks are flying by for me right now. I was just thinking about that the other day. It was just, man, each week is like, they feel like one day now. A week feels like a day to me. It's like,
I can't imagine what it feels like when you're like 70.
Yeah. It's like months become the days.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Is it maybe because you're getting closer to getting older, another day closer to death?
Yeah. And maybe it's like that could be,
Because when you're young, you don't think of that.
Yeah.
So times you think you have all the time in the world, but when you're older, let's say you're 70, 80, you're like, I bet you a month feels like a day.
Yeah.
That's a good question to ask somebody.
And I've kind of maybe I have a little bit of insight on that, or maybe I don't. Maybe I'm just speaking out my butt here. But as an adult now, 30, almost 35 years old, I've worked this job for 8 years that I'm at. And you work somewhere so long, and this is probably going to be my career for life. This might be where I am for the rest of my life. You get into that mode of just routine
Mm-hmm.
where everything just kind of meshes, blends together. Every week is kind of like the same thing over and over and over and over, which is not a bad thing, I would say. I get a lot of, I have to think a lot at my job, don't get me wrong.
Right. Yeah.
But it's also a lot of the same stuff still over and over and over again. And we stay busy, and when you are busy, time does fly, and I think that's what it is, more or less, is that I'm busy a lot at work, time is flying by, and before I know it, it's the weekend, and the weekend goes pretty fast, and then it's back to
Yeah.
work. And
I think it also gets worse once you have kids because you want time to slow down. You don't want time to go. It's like when you don't want it, it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
And when you want, like, oh, I want to be 18. I can't wait. It just goes slow.
Yeah.
But when you have kids and you don't want them to grow, my kid's gonna be 3 years old. I'm like, where did these 3 years happen? Like, what happened?
Crazy, dude.
Where was I? You know?
I know.
I just can't believe my kid. I have a teenager. Like, what the hell? What's
my
going on?
nieces and nephews are becoming adults now, and it's a crazy time.
It's crazy how life works. And since you say you worked in your job for 8 years, you never think about doing something else?
Once in a while, there's like these positions that are available at the hospital that come available like as like a vendor, like the vendors like Stryker and Zimmer and like specifically there was one with Acumed, and
they make good money, huh?
Yeah. It's like a lot of it's sales too. Like I didn't realize how much there's actually like sales involved. And I don't know how that all works. If you as a vendor have to go and find doctors to, peddle your products to, so that they start using your products during their surgeries. Because if they're using your products for their surgeries, you have to be at those surgeries,
right,
to assist using those products. So, and that's where your pay comes from. It's like how many surgeries are you getting done?
So it's more of
some of them are commission based. A lot of them are commission based. Yeah. So like Tyler, he's a Stryker rep now.
Yeah.
So he I think works on. I think he is a salary. So that's kind of a nice way to do it. Your salary, and then if you don't have any surgeries for that whole week, it's like you just had a whole week off. It's kind of a cush job to do a rep job as salary.
So that's something you'd want to do?
Maybe one day. I have a hard time.
Dude, you're a smart dude. You can do it.
Yeah, I have a hard time jumping ship on a job I've gotten used to, and
for 8 years,
I can starting imagine something new and not knowing, and I felt like CSP was hard enough when I started.
I mean, I know. I was there for 3 years.
Yeah, so it's like when you're starting, it feels like you're never going to get it. Eventually, of course, you do, and it's not so bad, and it'd probably be similar.
I wish I was more like you. Like, I wish I'd be like, okay, I've been here for 8 years. I'm good. It's a good job.
No,
and after,
I don't want to be like that,
dude. I can't. I don't know what it is. I just
feel like you can't settle.
I can't settle
down.
I'd be like, maybe dude, I got to do more than this.
That's a mark of high success, though.
I don't see it.
Well, you will eventually. I think that those types of minds, realize success over time. They work so hard to get to something more that eventually they're going to get to a very high level of success, just because they were willing to put that effort in, even though that effort didn't show anything for so many years. Not that I feel like there's a lot of a lot to show for the effort you have put in, and you're still not satisfied. I don't think that's a bad thing.
I just
satisfied as in you want to give more for your family. You want to have more for your family. You want to be able to provide.
I do. I just think I'm gonna have one life, bro. What can I do?
Yeah.
Why can't I? Why can't I? Get a degree in this. Why can't I get this job that I really want?
There's no reason why you can't, dude.
Why can't I?
That's what I'm saying. But
I wish I wasn't like that, though.
I admire you for that.
It's a curse. Trust me.
It's a curse and a gift.
It's a curse and a gift. I had a job, and I was doing really good. Made really good money. I worked a lot of hours, probably like 50 hours a week, maybe 55 a week. and I was working and working, making good money, but I woke up, I just don't want to do this, you know? So I'm like, it's not about the money. It really isn't about the money.
It's not. It's not.
I want to wake up and be like, oh my God, I cannot wait to go to work.
I can tell I know I enjoy my job just because I'll get through the weekend. And some weekends I'm like, I'm not so ready, but there's other weekends like, man, I want to get back.
Yeah.
I want to get back to the job. I like being there.
That's a great thing.
I like the position that I'm in just because I do feel like I'm not just stuck in one area at the job. I get kind of a taste of everything while I'm there.
Right, you rotate.
And yeah, I rotate a lot. Like I am definitely doing everything every day while I'm there. Not that I'm carrying it on my shoulders. I'm not saying. I just get a taste of every area of the department while I'm there. Everybody obviously it's a team effort and everybody does a great job. I just like my position because I don't have to I'm only wrapping today, or I'm only sterilizer today, or I'm only decon today, you know.
And you already know what to do, so it's not like you have to. Yeah.
And that's why why I'm comfortable. I know what to do there. I'm not, I'm not and I'm not stuck in one spot all day every day.
Right.
And
I never used to be the way I was until my grandpa passed away a couple of years ago, and I remember he was 77 years old when he passed away, but he still had to work. He had 2 jobs. He would work as a janitor, and then he would drive truck to Utah with potatoes or whatever the harvest was at the time. And yeah, when he passed away, he got an insurance check of $9,000. I think it was about $9,000, and I said, "That's all my grandpa was worth, $9,000. That doesn't cover anything." And that really affected me. And he used to work at Jabani too, and seeing when I worked at Jabani, when I worked at Jabani,
that's all he got. How many years did he work at night at Jabani?
I think he was let go after a year or two because he was a little old, and then he was just trying to get jobs here and job there. That's probably why, but he was definitely worth more than that.
Anybody is. Yeah.
And that kind of really said, I don't want to do that. Even when I see old people work like in their 70s and 80s, like, man, you should be enjoying life. And that's what gets me.
That, unless you really set yourself up in life once you die, you could be leaving your family with more debt than what you had before you died.
Well,
because the act of me dying cost more than what I even got from my death, like if I didn't set up for retirement, or if I didn't have life insurance and things like that, it costs kind of quite a bit to die.
Well, some people say they're worth more dead than alive because of the insurance purposes and stuff. But my grandpa, it was just tough. I'm like, man, I don't want to end up like that. That's why I'm saying it's a curse sometimes, because it bugs the hell out of you. I do not want to be here. Have you ever gone to Walmart and you see the door greeter or somebody, and it's this 80-year-old person, and hi, how's it going? They have to sit there for 8 hours. A lot of people don't realize this. They have to be there for 8 hours on their feet just to wave at people. I wouldn't want
to. I mean, that's an easy job.
If that was anybody, well, yeah.
I wouldn't.
But if that was a grandparent or a parent, wouldn't you be like, nah, you don't have to be doing this?
Yeah.
Right?
I would want to provide in some way to make sure that they didn't have to. It would be nice, if I had so much money that I could put my parents up in a really nice place where they never had to work again. My mom is still working. My dad's retired, but my mom still is working.
Yeah.
I feel kind of bad for
the same with my dad. He's retired. My
mom needs to retire. My mom is right at that age of retirement age. I hope that she takes her retirement soon.
Yeah, and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Because like you say,
she's had a heart, and and my dad, they've had, raising 9 kids. That puts some miles on you. And
I'm sure
you're ready to get some rest, I'm sure, after that.
Yeah. Well, Thomas, this was a great convo we had today.
Oh, it was awesome, bro.
We should do more convos like these. So anything else you want to say before we head out?
No, just thank you all for listening, and I hope you all stay safe out there.
Yeah, and listeners out there, Frederick Douglass, definitely look that guy up. Mm-hmm. You will be definitely impressed. And
I'm going to check that out when I go home.
For sure. Mm-hmm. So, all right. See you later, everybody.
All right, good night.